Hi, James. How are you today?
Outstanding. Great to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's get right into this. What's the best way to track leads?
The best way to track leads is to have a bigger picture or a larger world view of what a lead actually is, right? So we can think about tracking the number of leads, or we could think about expanding our worldview to think about the quality of those leads. We can also, in terms of quality, we can think about who that buyer that's reaching out to us is, or that we're going to have an appointment with is. Is that buyer the decision maker? Is that buyer an economic approver? Are they decision makers who live, or buyers who live above the power line in the organization that we're selling to? Or are they buyers that live below the power line? Are they users and adopters? Are they technical evaluators? So we have to look at number of leads, we have to look at quality of lead, and the only way to optimize that is to optimize the relationship between branding, marketing, sales, and customer experience, right? We have to think about how we optimize all four of those disciplines inside the revenue organization so that we can optimize the number and quality of those leads so that we can optimize the number and quality of our customers.
Beautiful. And so if you're working with a team of sales reps, like where do they struggle in this process the most? Where do they get stuck?
Yeah, the sales reps, let's just assume that a sales rep is doing the work, right? So there are reps that don't like to prospect and there are reps that do. Let's just assume that we are prospecting and we are putting as much time as we need to into the effort. How do we improve the results of our prospecting? The challenge is that salespeople, and I count myself as one of these folks, salespeople are the tip of the arrow. We are execution oriented. We are really good at what I call the belly to belly engagement with a prospective customer.
Mm-hmm.
We are not folks who can necessarily think strategically. Like, we're the tip of the arrow. We're not the entire arrow itself. We're not aiming the arrow. We're not deciding what markets we want to go after. We're not thinking about maximizing product market fit. We want all that stuff done for us, right? Because if a salesperson isn't given that information, they'll make it up themselves. And if you've got 10 or 20 salespeople all doing their own thing, all making it up themselves, you have a sales organization that is underperforming just by virtue of the fact that they're not all aligned and they're all making the same mistakes over and over again. And they're also devaluing and lowering the impact of all the branding and marketing that you're doing that's trying to be, that's trying to target a specific market. So
So
the
where,
biggest mistake we make
yes,
is
go
not,
ahead.
yeah. So the biggest mistake we make is not informing the sales team of what their ideal customer profile is, who the always buyer is, what kinds of conversations you should be having with those buyers, what kinds of questions you should be asking, what kinds of answers you should be looking for, and what kinds of agreements you should be coming up with. When that fails, then all the effort in the world is not going to save you.
Okay, so you think then the number one, the main problem is that sales reps have too much autonomy and they just go for whatever they can go for, right?
Right. Right.
And
The
it's the
strategy for hiring a
salesman.
rep. I'm sorry for
Yeah.
interrupting. The strategy for hiring a salesperson is this: I'm going to hire you, give you a phone, a desk,
Mm-hmm.
and a computer. Go get them, Tiger. In other words, they say, go figure it out yourself.
Yes. Yes, but too much so. Too much so.
Too much so, exactly.
Right, right. So then how would you advise, let's say, a sales manager or anyone in management, like where would they begin the process to then guide the team? What's the first step for them?
Yeah, beautiful question. So there has to be a recognition, and we hear a lot of this phrase lately, the science and art, or the art and science of your craft, right? So what we see, especially in sales organizations, is that salespeople rely upon their natural gifts, their charm, their gut instincts, their force of will to make sales work. And when organizations ask a salesperson to figure it out themselves, they're telling the salesperson to continue to cultivate the art of their craft. What a
Mm-hmm.
manager or a VP or a chief revenue officer or a CEO have to do is they have to support the art of the individual with the science of the system. They have to develop the system, a systematic path to success that they can then teach the reps, so the reps can then apply their art in a predictable, repeatable way. It's like the difference between a professional gambler and someone who goes to Vegas and loses their money year over year, right? Those
Right.
casinos weren't built on winners. But we know that there's a small percentage of gamblers who have built a system that wins, that allows you to win more than you lose and allows you to win bigger and lose smaller over time.
Right.
That's the kind of system we need to give our salespeople.
That's great. And it's true because salespeople we're doers. Okay. Got to get the deal. Got to do this. Got to do that. Got to do that. They're
Yeah.
not thinkers and reflectors necessarily. I don't want to pigeonhole anyone, but I understand what you're saying. And so, how did you learn to do this? Explain what you do in your business a little bit, so I can understand.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I know I'm dating myself, but the first 15 years of my career I spent uh, either as a founder or a top sales performer or a head of sales for 8 venture-backed startups, 5 of which had exits, 2 of which were IPOs. So I had a lot of early success and experience selling things that people didn't know they needed to solve problems they didn't know they had, selling for venture-backed companies that were bringing new products to market. So it was a most difficult way of selling, and it was one that I learned to perfect really early. However, I wasn't executing it as well as I could. I burned out, and as a result of hiring a coach and becoming functional, I then decided every CEO and sales leader I had met previously needed this wisdom. So for the last 17 years, I've been delivering it as part of my practice to help not just business owners and CEOs transform the effectiveness of their sales and revenue organizations. That's what we would refer to as a top-down transformation. We've also been working with sales reps and their managers in a bottom-up transformation to help just simply improve the quality of our conversations. And by doing so, improving our effectiveness. And what we can do is we can actually, with a bottom-up transformation, we can actually double or triple the year-over-year growth of an organization without expanding the sales force, just by improving the quality of their execution.
So, where do you have the most fun in this process? I know it sounds like a bizarre question, but what area do you enjoy the most in this whole process?
Yeah, I really do appreciate that question, because a lot of folks with my background tend to seek those chief revenue officer roles or those fractional chief revenue officer roles so they can remain strategic. I like working with practitioners. I like working with sales reps and managers. Of course, I have to integrate what I do with the rest of the revenue organization. I love working with branding and marketing folks that are challenged to deliver the sales team the best product, right? The best leads to help them accelerate that sales process and improve the pipeline. So I love working at that execution level with people and managers who are making this happen. That's really where the most development and most growth can typically occur inside of an organization. And so I get the biggest bang for the buck, for the client's buck. And it's also where I can change lives, because if you just help someone learn something new over the course of a 1-year relationship, they can leverage that for the next 30 years of their career and translate that not only into a great income, but a real enjoyable and fruitful career.
That's amazing. And so, where do you find the most resistance? Because I'm sure there's a ton of resistance when you're speaking to decision makers on how they do things, right? Ton of resistance and maybe a little bit of ego.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, my experience is just that. I mean, there are a lot of folks at all levels that either are not allowed to seek outside help because their boss said, look, I hired you to have this expertise. And so they don't kind of allow those folks to think about going outside the organization for help. But there are also folks that believe they should know this. And so they're resistant to outside help because they those insecurities are telling them, hey man, I need to know this, and if I don't know it, I can figure it out. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna blame anybody for having that approach. I think it's whatever's working for you is fine. And we're all in a journey of self-discovery and self-awareness. So, I'm going to let people off the hook if they are there. The best clients for us are the folks that the leaders, for example, who are thinking to themselves, am I doing everything I can to empower my team? Am I doing everything I can to help them reach and redefine their potential as role players, but also as members of our organization? If a leader's thinking that way, then they're thinking about this idea of continuous improvement. It can lead to a very fruitful relationship, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that will be executing the training and coaching that we deliver and the systems that we help them build. And if a rep is asking the same question, what can I be doing differently to change my fortune as a individual contributor, then those again are folks who are open to change. Those are the folks that we can work best with.
I love the passion. I love it. So what's the best place for people to reach you?
Well, thank you for asking. So I'm available on LinkedIn. James Rores, Rores, is the profile. I think I'm probably the only one up there. You can also reach out to me through our website, florisgroup.com, FLORISS group.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Great pleasure. Thanks for having me.